Assalamu alaikum, Dr. Aisha here. Today, our topic of discussion is vessels of the forearm. Vessels of the forearm include arteries of the forearm, veins that drain the forearm, anastomosis around the elbow joint, and anastomosis around the wrist joint. We'll start our topic with the arteries of the forearm. Main arteries of the forearm include radial and ulnar arteries. Here is an image showing the arteries or the arterial supply of the whole upper limb. This is the radial artery which runs on the lateral side of the forearm, and this one is the ulnar artery which runs on the medial side of the forearm. Let's take a quick review of their origin. Here is the left subclavian artery arising from the arch of aorta. This subclavian artery, it becomes the axillary artery at the outer border of first rib, as you already know this. This axillary artery then runs up to the lower border of teres major muscle, where it becomes the brachial artery, which is the main artery of the arm. This brachial artery, opposite the neck of radius in the inferior part of cubital fossa, it divides into two terminal branches, or you can say this brachial artery, it terminates in the inferior part of cubital fossa by dividing into two terminal branches. The first one is the radial artery, which runs on the lateral side of the forearm, and the second one being the ulnar artery, which runs on the medial part of the forearm. We'll talk about the course and branches of these arteries one by one. We'll talk about the radial artery first of all. Here is the brachial artery, and this is the bifurcation of brachial artery in the lower part of cubital fossa. This one is the radial artery. The radial artery is the smaller terminal branch of brachial artery. It runs downwards in the forearm with a lateral convexity. As you can see here, it runs in the forearm with the lateral convexity. After reaching the lower part of the forearm, it leaves the forearm by winding backwards, by winding around the lateral aspect of the wrist, as you can see here, and enters the floor of the anatomical snuff box. It starts in the cubital fossa opposite the neck of the radius, then it runs downwards in the forearm with the lateral convexity. After reaching the lower part of the forearm, as you can see here, this radial artery, it winds around the lateral aspect of the wrist at this point and enters the anatomical snuff box. We'll talk about the course of radial artery in the hand in our next substage. For now, you just need to remember its course in the forearm. As compared to the ulnar artery, this radial artery is quite superficial throughout its whole course. When the brachioradialis muscle is pulled laterally, the entire length of the radial artery is visible. Due to its superficial course, the pulsations of the radial artery can be felt throughout the forearm. This radial artery, it makes anterolateral demarcation of flexor and extensor compartments of the forearm. As you already know, the forearm has two compartments. It is divided into two compartments, the flexor and extensor compartment. This radial artery, it forms the anterolateral demarcation of these two compartments, or you can say in other words that this radial artery is dividing or is forming the lateral boundary of the two compartments. It is separating the two compartments anterolaterally. This was the course of radial artery in the forearm. Now let's talk about its relations in the forearm. Now we'll talk about the relations of radial artery in the forearm. This is the radial artery. This is lateral side. This is the medial side of the forearm. As you can see in this image, the radial artery is overlapped or is covered anteriorly by this brachioradialis muscle. This whole muscle is the brachioradialis muscle, which is covering the radial artery in its upper part. While in the lower part, as you can see, this radial artery is only covered by the skin, superficial fascia and the deep fascia. It is actually this side or this part of the forearm where the radial artery is superficial and the radial pulse can easily be felt here. Here is an image showing the method or the site where the radial pulse is palpated. This is actually the site for measuring the pulse rate, where the radial artery lies on the anterior surface of distal end of radius, just lateral to the tendon of flexor carpi radialis. Here the artery is covered by only fascia and skin. It is superficial at this side. The artery can be compressed against the distal end of the radius, where it lies between the tendons of flexor carpi radialis and abductor pollicis longus muscles. When measuring the radial pulse rate, remember, do not use the pulp of the thumb. Do not palpate the radial artery with the pulp of your thumb, because the thumb has its own pulse, which could obscure the patient's pulse. Always palpate the radial artery with your index and middle finger. Here is an image showing the posterior relations of the radial artery in the forearm. These are the deep flexor muscles of the forearm. Superficial layer of the flexor muscles have been removed so that the course of radial artery and its posterior relations can easily be seen. These are the cut tendons of the superficial flexor muscles, which are the flexor carpi radialis, palmaris longus and flexor digitorum superficialis. This is the cut tendon of the pronator teres muscle. We have removed the superficial layer so that the posterior relations of radial artery can be appreciable. This one is the radial artery. This whole, as you can see here, this is the radial artery. You can remember the posterior relations of radial artery by just remembering the fact that the muscles which arises from the anterior surface of radius, they all forms the posterior relation of the radial artery. In other words, you can say the radial artery, it lies superficial to all the muscles which arises from the anterior surface of radius. These muscles are, number one, the biceps brachii muscle. This is the cut tendon of biceps brachii muscle, which is inserted into the radial tuberosity. As you already know, it lies posterior to the radial artery. The second muscle which arises from the anterior surface of the radius is the flexor pollicis longus muscle, this one. This flexor pollicis longus muscle also lies posterior to the radial artery. The third muscle which arises from the anterior surface of radius is the pronator quadratus muscle, this one. This pronator quadratus muscle, it also lies posterior to the radial artery in the forearm. The last muscle which has the oblique origin from the anterior surface is the flexor digitorum superficialis, this one. These four muscles which arises or are attached to the anterior surface of radius, they form the posterior relation of the radial artery, or you can say these four muscles, they lie posterior to the radial artery in its course through the forearm. Now talking about the medial relations of the radial artery, just remember these images for remembering the relations of radial artery in the forearm. This is the radial artery. As you can see, just medial to this radial artery, we have pronator teres muscle, this one in its upper 1/3, and we have the tendon of flexor carpi radialis in the lower 2/3 of its course. This one is the cut tendon of flexor carpi radialis muscle, which lies on the medial side of the radial artery. And here is the pronator teres muscle, which lies medial to the radial artery in its upper 1/3. This is an image showing the lateral relations of the radial artery in the forearm. As you can see here, this one is the radial artery. Radial artery is related to the brachioradialis muscle in its whole extent. This is the brachioradialis muscle, which lies on the lateral side of radial artery in its whole extent. In addition to that, we have radial nerve, which is related to the middle third of the radial artery. This yellow one is the radial nerve, which is related to middle 1/3 of the radial artery. That's all about the relations of radial artery in the forearm. Now we'll talk about the branches of radial artery in the forearm. The first branch of the radial artery in the forearm is the radial recurrent artery, this one. This radial recurrent artery, it arises just below the elbow at this point. It then runs upwards deep to the brachioradialis muscle. This is the brachioradialis muscle. This one is the radial recurrent artery, which runs upwards deep to this muscle. This radial recurrent artery, it ends by anastomosing with the radial collateral artery, which in turn is a branch of profunda brachii artery. If you remember, I told you in my lecture of brachial artery that the profunda brachii artery, it divides into two branches, radial collateral artery and the middle collateral artery. This radial collateral artery, it lies in front of the lateral epicondyle of humerus and it anastomoses with this branch of radial artery. We'll talk about the anastomosis of elbow joint in detail in a while. For now, just remember this radial recurrent artery, it takes part in anastomosis around the elbow joint. The second branches which arises from the radial artery are the muscular branches. These small branches which you can see here, these all are the muscular branches of the radial artery which supply the lateral muscles of the forearm. The third branch of the radial artery is the palmar carpal branch. This one is the anterior view of the forearm and wrist. This one is the posterior or dorsal view of the forearm and wrist. Here is the radial artery. This one is the ulnar artery. The radial artery, it gives off palmar carpal branch which arises near the lower border of pronator quadratus muscle. These one are the palmar carpal branches of the radial artery. They run medially deep to the flexor tendons and these branches anastomose with the palmar carpal branches of the ulnar artery. These one are the palmar carpal branches of ulnar artery. These red one are the palmar carpal branches of the radial artery. These anastomose with each other to form a cruciform anastomosis around the wrist joint. We'll talk about this anastomosis later on. For now, just remember this cruciform anastomosis around the wrist joint, it supplies the bones and joints at the wrist. They supply the carpal bones. Similarly, on the dorsal aspect, the radial artery also gives off dorsal carpal branches. These one are the dorsal carpal branches of the radial artery. These dorsal carpal branches, as you can see, these also anastomose with the same branches of the ulnar artery, which are the dorsal carpal branches of ulnar artery, these one, and forms the anastomosis on the dorsum of the wrist as well. The yellow color is representing the palmar carpal branches of the ulnar artery, and at this side this yellow color is representing the dorsal carpal branches of the ulnar artery. These two anastomose to form the cruciform anastomosis around the wrist joint. The fifth branch of the radial artery is the superficial palmar branch. As I have already told you, the radial artery, it passes downwards in the forearm. At the lower border of the forearm, it runs or it winds around laterally and enters the anatomical snuff box at this point. At this point, the radial artery, it leaves the anterior side of the forearm and enters the dorsal side by winding laterally around the wrist. But before going on the dorsal aspect, it gives off a branch which is termed as the superficial palmar branch, this one. This superficial palmar branch of the radial artery, it joins the terminal part of ulnar artery to form the superficial palmar arch in the hand. We'll discuss these superficial and deep palmar arches in detail in the hand. For now, just remember that superficial palmar branch of the radial artery, it anastomoses or it joins the superficial or the terminal part of the ulnar artery to form the superficial palmar arch in the hand. While the terminal part of the radial artery itself, this one, this blue part is the terminal part of the radial artery which forms the deep palmar arch by joining the deep palmar branch of ulnar artery. These were the branches of radial artery in the forearm. Now the second artery of the forearm is the ulnar artery. Ulnar artery is the larger terminal branch of the brachial artery that begins in the cubital fossa. As you can see in this image, this is brachial artery which is dividing into two branches in the lower end of cubital fossa. This one is the ulnar artery, the larger terminal branch of brachial artery. Talking about its course, the ulnar artery, it runs obliquely downwards and medially in the upper 1/3 of the forearm, as you can see here, downwards and medially in the upper 1/3, and in the lower 2/3 of the forearm, its course is vertical, like this. During its course through the forearm, it passes deep to the superficial and intermediate layers of the flexor muscles, which means it lies deep to the superficial and intermediate layer of the flexor muscles of forearm. After reaching the lower end of the forearm, the ulnar artery, it passes superficial to the flexor retinaculum at wrist in the ulnar canal to enter the hand. This is flexor retinaculum, which is a band of deep fascia that is present just in front of the wrist. We'll talk about the flexor retinaculum, its boundaries and contents in detail in the fourth substage. For now, just remember there is a band of deep fascia termed as flexor retinaculum just in front of the wrist. The ulnar artery, it passes superficial to this flexor retinaculum through a space which is termed as ulnar canal or Guyon's canal and enters the hand. In the hand, the terminal part of ulnar artery, it joins the superficial palmar branch of radial artery to form the superficial palmar arch, this one, which supply the joints and joints, bones and muscles of the hands. We'll talk about this arch later on. Here is an image showing the passage of ulnar artery and ulnar nerve through the ulnar canal. This is ulnar artery and ulnar nerve which passes superficial to flexor retinaculum through this ulnar canal. This small canal you can see here is the ulnar canal. We are not going into detail of this canal right now. I'm just showing you this image for just a concept that this is the flexor retinaculum, a band of deep fascia, and this one is the volar carpal ligament, a small ligament which is present on the flexor retinaculum, which forms a small space underneath. Through this space, ulnar artery and ulnar canal passes and enters the hand. This canal is termed as the ulnar canal or Goyne's canal. You just need to remember its location and name at this stage. Now let's talk about the relations of ulnar artery in the forearm. This is an image showing the anterior relations of ulnar artery in the forearm. This is the medial side, this one is the lateral side. As you can see in this image, ulnar artery is covered by the superficial group of flexor muscles. This one, these four, they have common flexor origin at this point. This is the flexor carpi ulnaris, this is palmaris longus, this is flexor carpi radialis and the pronator teres muscle. These muscles, they lie anterior to the ulnar artery in the upper half of the forearm. We have to remove these muscles if we want to see the course of ulnar artery in the forearm. While in the lower half of the forearm, as you can see here, this ulnar artery, it is only covered by the skin and fascia. It becomes superficial in the lower half of the forearm. Here is an image showing the deep relations of the ulnar artery in the forearm. We have removed the superficial layer of flexor muscles, this one, so that the course of ulnar artery and its deep relations can be seen in the forearm. Now the muscles that lie posterior to the ulnar artery are those which arises from the anterior surface of the ulna, which are the brachialis muscle and the flexor digitorum profundus muscle. This whole muscle, which you can see here, is the flexor digitorum profundus muscle, which lie deep to the ulnar artery, this one. Medially, you can see this is the medial side, this one is the lateral side. Medially, there is ulnar nerve. This yellow colored vein you can see here is the ulnar nerve, which is present on the medial side of ulnar artery throughout its course. In addition to that, on the medial side we have the flexor carpi ulnaris muscle. This is the tendon of flexor carpi ulnaris muscle, cut tendon of flexor carpi ulnaris muscle. We have removed this muscle so that its course is easily visible in the forearm. On the medial side we have ulnar nerve, flexor carpi ulnaris, and on the lateral side we have this flexor digitorum superficialis muscle. This has also been removed so that the deep relations are easily visible. Here is another image showing the deep relations of ulnar artery in the forearm. The relations are much more visible in this image. This is the ulnar artery, this is medial side, this is lateral side. On the lateral side you can see there is flexor digitorum superficialis muscle, which has been removed here, and on the medial side we have the ulnar nerve, this yellow one, and the flexor carpi ulnaris muscle, which has also been removed so that the course of ulnar artery can easily be visible here. And posterior to the ulnar artery we have the flexor digitorum profundus muscle and the brachialis muscle. Now let's talk about the branches of ulnar artery in the forearm. Here is an image showing the branches of ulnar artery in the forearm. This is brachial artery and this is its bifurcation in the cubital fossa. This is the ulnar artery. The first branches which arise from the ulnar artery are the anterior ulnar recurrent artery, this one, and the posterior ulnar recurrent artery. They are termed as recurrent because they runs upwards like this and joins the branches of the brachial artery and form the anastomosis around the elbow joint. As you can clearly see in this image, this anterior ulnar recurrent artery, it runs upwards and it joins the inferior ulnar collateral artery, which is a branch of the brachial artery, in front of the medial epicondyle. And this is the posterior ulnar recurrent artery, which runs upwards and backwards, and it anastomoses with the superior ulnar collateral branch of the brachial artery just behind the medial epicondyle, and they take part in the anastomosis around the elbow joint. The second branch of the ulnar artery is the common interosseous artery, this one. This part is the common interosseous artery. It is about 1 centimeter long and it arises just below the radial tuberosity. It passes backwards to reach the upper border of the interosseous membrane. This is the interosseous membrane. This artery passes backwards to reach the upper border of interosseous membrane, where it divides into further two branches, which are termed as anterior and posterior interosseous arteries. This is the anterior interosseous artery, which comes or which travels just anterior to the interosseous membrane, and this one is the posterior interosseous artery, which passes posterior to the interosseous membrane. Let's talk about these arteries in detail individually. Now let's talk about the anterior interosseous artery first of all. The anterior interosseous artery is the deepest artery on the front of the forearm. This one is the anterior interosseous artery. This is the ulnar artery. This is common interosseous artery, and this is anterior interosseous artery. This anterior interosseous artery, it accompanies the anterior interosseous nerve, this one, which is a branch of median nerve. It descends on the surface of interosseous membrane between the flexor digitorum profundus muscle, this one, this is flexor digitorum profundus muscle, and this is flexor pollicis longus. This anterior interosseous artery, it runs between these two muscles on the anterior surface of interosseous membrane. When this anterior interosseous artery, it reaches the upper border of pronator quadratus muscle, this is pronator quadratus muscle. On reaching its upper border, this artery, it pierces the interosseous membrane and enters the extensor compartment. This anterior interosseous artery, it gives muscular branches to the deep muscles of front of forearm. These are the deep muscles. They are supplied by the anterior interosseous artery. As you can see here, these small muscular branches of anterior interosseous artery. In addition to that, it gives nutrient branches to the radius and ulna, and a median artery which accompanies the median nerve. Let me show you another image of these interosseous arteries for further clarity. Here is the common interosseous artery, which is dividing into two branches, posterior artery and anterior interosseous artery. This anterior interosseous artery, as you can see, it runs on the anterior surface of interosseous membrane up to the upper border of pronator quadratus muscle. At this point, it leaves the anterior compartment of the forearm and enters the posterior compartment by passing through this small aperture which lies in the lower part of interosseous membrane. Just before leaving the anterior compartment, the anterior interosseous artery, it gives off a branch. It gives off a palmar carpal branch, this one, which takes part in anastomosis around the wrist joint. We'll talk about this branch later on. When it enters the posterior compartment, it reinforces the posterior interosseous artery in the lower part of posterior compartment. The posterior interosseous artery, it diminishes in the lower part of posterior compartment of forearm, and it is replaced by this anterior interosseous artery on the posterior compartment. Now talking about the posterior interosseous artery, here is the posterior interosseous artery in the posterior compartment of forearm. As you can see in this image, soon after its origin, the posterior interosseous artery, it gives off a branch, this one, which is termed as the recurrent interosseous artery. This recurrent interosseous artery, it ascends and takes part in anastomosis around the elbow joint here. Then the posterior interosseous artery, it runs downwards between the superficial and deep layer of extensor muscles of the forearm. It accompanies the posterior interosseous nerve, this one. The posterior interosseous artery, it supplies both the superficial and deep extensor muscles through its muscular branches, as you can see here. In the lower part of the forearm, this is replaced by the anterior interosseous artery at this point. Here, the posterior interosseous artery, it terminates and is replaced by the anterior interosseous artery, which comes to the posterior compartment through the aperture in the interosseous membrane, as I have already told you. This is an image of interosseous membrane and the apertures. This gap between the oblique cord and upper part of the interosseous membrane, it allows the passage of posterior interosseous artery from anterior to the posterior compartment. And here is the aperture which allows the anterior interosseous artery, which passes through this aperture and enters the lower part of posterior compartment, and it joins the posterior interosseous artery. Posterior interosseous artery, it becomes, or it terminates near the lower end and is joined by this anterior interosseous artery. This is an image showing the course of anterior interosseous artery on the anterior surface of interosseous membrane. This green one is anterior interosseous artery, this is common interosseous artery, and here is the posterior interosseous artery. And here is another image of the posterior interosseous artery. This green one is representing the posterior interosseous artery in the posterior compartment of forearm, and this red one is the anterior interosseous artery, which is replacing the posterior interosseous artery in the lower part of the forearm. Now the third one are the muscular branches of ulnar artery. These are the small muscular branches of ulnar artery which supplies the medial muscles of the forearm. This is ulnar artery, and these are the small branches, small muscular branches of ulnar artery for the medial muscles. Now the last two branches of the ulnar artery in the forearm are the palmar carpal branch of the ulnar artery and dorsal carpal branches of the ulnar artery. This is the anterior aspect. As I have already told you, the ulnar artery, it gives off the palmar carpal branches, this and this one, which anastomose with the corresponding palmar carpal branches of the radial artery and forms cruciform anastomosis around the elbow wrist joint. On the dorsal aspect, similar to the radial artery, ulnar artery also gives off the dorsal carpal branches, this one, which anastomose with the dorsal carpal branches of the radial artery and form anastomosis around the wrist joint. And here is the terminal part of ulnar artery, which forms the superficial palmar arch in the hand. that's all about the arteries of the forearm. Now let's begin the veins of the forearm. Veins of the forearm are divided into two groups, superficial veins and the deep veins. We'll talk about these groups individually. Talking about the superficial veins of the forearm, we have two superficial veins in the forearm that runs in the subcutaneous tissue of the forearm. These are the cephalic vein and the basilic vein. Let's talk about the origin of these veins first of all. This is the dorsum of hand. We have the dorsal venous network on the hand. We'll talk about this network in detail later on. For now, just remember there is a dorsal venous network on the dorsum of our hand. From the lateral side of this venous network, there arises a vein which is termed as the cephalic vein. It passes over the anatomical snuff box like this. Then it proceeds along the lateral border of the wrist and anterolateral surface of the proximal forearm. On the medial side, we have the basilic vein, which originates from the medial side of the dorsal network and passes into the dorsomedial aspect of the forearm. Talking about the course of cephalic and basilic vein in the forearm, here is the cephalic vein on the lateral side of the forearm, and this is the basilic vein on the medial side of the forearm. Just in front of the elbow, in the cubital fossa, these two veins are joined together by median cubital vein, this one. The basilic vein then ascends up to the lower border of teres major muscle, where it pierces the deep fascia and joins the brachial vein to form the axillary vein, this one. This axillary vein, which in turn drains into the subclavian vein. The cephalic vein, which lies on the anterolateral aspect of the forearm, it runs on the lateral side of the forearm and arm until it reaches the deltopectoral groove. The groove, this is the deltoid muscle, this is the pectoralis major muscle. The groove in between these two muscles is the deltopectoral groove, into which the cephalic vein ascends. It then enters the clavipectoral triangle at this side. It pierces the costocoracoid membrane and part of clavipectoral fascia and joins the axillary vein, terminal part of axillary vein. This was the course of cephalic and basilic vein through the forearm and arm. Then we have the deep veins in the forearm, which accompany their corresponding deep arteries. We have the radial veins, ulnar veins and interosseous veins. Just like the arteries which form the superficial and deep palmar arches in the hand, we have the deep venous palmar arch in the hand as well. From the lateral side of this arch, paired radial veins arise, these ones, and accompany the radial artery. From the medial side of the palmar venous arch, there arises the two ulnar veins which accompany the ulnar arteries. The radial and ulnar veins, they mainly drain the forearm but carry relatively little blood from the hand. The deep veins then ascend in the forearm along the sides of their corresponding arteries. Each artery, it accompanies the two corresponding veins. As you can see here, this radial artery, it has two corresponding veins, and the ulnar artery also have the two corresponding veins. The deep interosseous veins, this one, they accompany the interosseous arteries. They unite with the accompanying veins of the radial and ulnar arteries. These deep veins then unite to form the brachial vein in the lower part of the cubital fossa. These brachial veins, they ascend and join the basilic vein at the lower border of teres major muscle. These are the brachial veins and this one is the basilic vein. They unite together at the lower border of teres major muscle and they become the axillary vein. This axillary vein then ascends and it receives the cephalic vein in the deltopectoral groove. The cephalic vein and axillary vein, they then become the subclavian vein which drain ultimately into the heart. This is the venous drainage of forearm and arm. That's all about the arteries and veins of the forearm. Now, our next topic is anastomosis around the elbow joint. This is an image showing anastomosis around the elbow joint. This anastomosis, it takes place between 8 branches. 4 branches, they arise from the brachial artery and 4 branches, they come from the radial and ulnar arteries. Let's have a review of the branches of brachial artery. This is the brachial artery, as you already know. It gives off a branch which is termed as the profunda brachii artery, this one. This profunda brachii artery, it gives off 2 terminal branches, radial collateral branch which comes on the anterior aspect of the lateral epicondyle and the middle collateral branch, this one, which lies posterior to the lateral epicondyle. Then we have superior ulnar collateral artery which lies posterior to the medial epicondyle, and we have the inferior ulnar collateral artery which lies anterior to the medial epicondyle of humerus. These 4 are the branches of brachial artery which contribute in anastomosis around the elbow joint. Now what happens is, this is the radial artery, this one is the ulnar artery. Here is the common interosseous artery, branch of the ulnar artery, which gives off posterior interosseous artery and the anterior interosseous artery, this one. Starting from the medial side, we have anterior ulnar recurrent artery, this one, which is a branch of ulnar artery. This anterior ulnar recurrent artery, it ascends and it anastomoses with the inferior ulnar collateral artery just in front of the medial epicondyle of humerus. On the posterior aspect of medial epicondyle of humerus, we have the posterior ulnar recurrent artery, this one, which ascends and join the superior ulnar collateral artery of the brachial artery and form anastomosis behind the medial epicondyle of humerus. Now on the lateral side, we have the radial recurrent artery, this one, which is a branch of radial artery, as I have already told you about these branches. This radial recurrent artery, it joins the radial collateral branch of profunda brachii artery just in front of the lateral epicondyle of humerus, as it is clearly seen in this picture. Then we have the recurrent interosseous artery, which arises from the posterior interosseous artery. It then ascends and joins the middle collateral branch of the profunda brachii artery, this one, on the posterior aspect of lateral epicondyle of humerus. These 8 branches, they form anastomosis around the elbow joint. This anastomosis around the elbow joint, it links the brachial artery with the upper ends of the radial and ulnar arteries. This anastomosis, it supplies the ligaments and bones of the joint. Here is another image of anastomosis around elbow joint for further clarity. We have 4 branches on the medial side which form anastomosis around the elbow joint. These are inferior ulnar collateral artery which anastomoses with the anterior ulnar recurrent artery, this one, in front of the medial epicondyle of humerus. And behind the medial epicondyle we have superior ulnar collateral artery, this one, and the posterior ulnar recurrent artery, this one. Similarly, in front of the lateral epicondyle we have the radial collateral branch of profunda brachii which anastomoses with the radial recurrent branch, and behind the lateral epicondyle we have the middle collateral branch of profunda brachii which anastomoses with the recurrent interosseous branch. These are the 8 branches which form anastomosis around the elbow joint. Now let's talk about anastomosis around the wrist joint. 4 arteries contribute in anastomosis around the wrist joint. This is the palmar aspect of the wrist joint. This is ulnar artery, this is radial artery, this is anterior interosseous artery, and this one is the superficial palmar arch, and this is the deep palmar arch of the radial and ulnar arteries. The first branch which contributes in anastomosis around the wrist joint is the palmar carpal branches of the ulnar artery, this one. The second branches which contribute in anastomosis around the wrist joint are the palmar carpal branches of the radial artery, these one. We have already discussed these branches in the start of the lecture. The third branch taking part in this anastomosis is the superficial palmar branch of the anterior interosseous artery, this one. As I have already told you, the anterior interosseous artery, before going into posterior compartment of forearm, it gives off a superficial palmar branch which joins this anastomosis around the wrist joint. After giving off this branch, the anterior interosseous artery, it passes through the aperture in the interosseous membrane and it leaves the anterior compartment. The fourth and last branch taking part in the anastomosis around the wrist joint is the palmar carpal branch of the deep palmar arch, this one. This is a branch from the deep palmar arch which joins this cruciform anastomosis around the wrist joint. We have 4 branches on the palmar aspect. The first one is the palmar carpal branches of the ulnar artery, then comes the palmar carpal branches of the radial artery, then we have the carpal branch of the anterior interosseous artery, and finally the deep palmar arch. It gives off a branch which join these arteries and complete the anastomosis around the wrist joint. Now talking about the dorsal aspect of the anastomosis around the wrist joint. On the dorsum of the wrist, we have 3 branches contributing in this anastomosis. The first one is the dorsal carpal branch of the ulnar artery, this one. The second branch contributing in this anastomosis is the dorsal carpal branch of the radial artery, this one. Then we have the posterior branch of anterior interosseous artery, this one, which is completing the anastomosis around the wrist joint posteriorly. We have 3 branches on the dorsum, which are dorsal carpal branch of ulnar artery, dorsal carpal branch of radial artery, and the posterior branch of anterior interosseous artery. That's all about anastomosis around the wrist joint. Thank you.